And there we are, ladies and gents. Thank you for your patience with the last minute reschedule. But as ever, when it comes to certain things that are out of our hands, technical problems arise, ensued, and were overcome. So thank you for bearing with us as a part of that. But welcome to another episode of the podcast. Bob, how are you doing, sir? How's things? It's been quite eventful where you
Yeah,
are.
I think it should be me that apologises, because the rubber band that keeps our electric going obviously broke and couldn't be fixed, and it's taken to today to get it working again. But yeah, apart from that, I'm okay, and having to defrost the freezer and all sorts of things. Yeah, I'm fine.
You gotten past the tragedy of the World Cup?
I think it's one of those words. It was inevitable. I think it's and it's something we could maybe do on another episode. But I think there's a deep psychological reason that we do that, and I don't know what it is. But there is a reason that when we get to a winning stage, we seem to bottle it a bit, and I don't know quite what that is. But there you go. Another episode for that, maybe.
That's it. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay, so today, and thank you for being patient, Sue. We've got a special guest, someone I know quite well, I would say. We worked together. We were both, in fact, she was the academic lead for the Centre for Investigative Security and Police Sciences that was at the City University. Quite a groundbreaking departure for the university to have police officers working alongside academics teaching police officers. But about her personally, the thing that I love about her is she's got so many strings to her bow. She's a rugby coach. She swam in the Commonwealth Games. She's very greedy. She's got 4 degrees, not just 1, 4. And she also has a university award named after her.
Wow.
Above all that, she now is using her skills, psychology skills, etc., in the field of marriage, and more particularly divorce. She is the divorce doctor, and it's Sue Palmer.
Hello.
And it's nice to see you, Sue.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
I'm sorry, I probably embarrassed you there. I didn't mean to embarrass you, but none of that was a fabrication, was it?
Nope.
Oh, and I left one thing out. So it's Heidi High.
Oh, yeah.
You were a Butlins red coat as well.
I was.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, Sue, you've had a long career doing many things, and it's a bit of a, maybe to some people, it's a bit of a leap, but not to me, because I sort of know and understand. But it's a bit of a leap from working in the Centre for Police Investigation and Security and everything to being a divorce doctor. But when you think about it, this is the way I think about it, and this is my opening gambit to you, is when we talk about relationships, marriage is the top pinnacle of that. And when you look at things like I look at it, about what drives human beings, and we want to be connected. That's part of why Homo sapiens advanced and maybe Neanderthals died out, because they were more hunter-gatherers and we were more wanting to live in crowds. So why is it, do you think, that if that's the case, why do so many marriages fail if we've got that connection? What is it that makes a good marriage? Is it about being compatible, or is it something more than that?
Oh, gosh. Where do I start? First of all, you need to define what is a good marriage. What's a good marriage to me might be very different to somebody else.
Mm.
But I think fundamentally, it's marrying your best friend, getting to know that person as well as, well, probably better than you know yourself, because other people know you far better than you know yourself.
Yeah.
But I know the first book I wrote, non-academic book, was called Plan the Marriage, Not Just the Wedding.
Mm.
And that was a series of several hundred questions that people can ask each other in the run-up to the wedding. So it looked at things from communication style, conflict handling, do you avoid conflict or do you meet it head on? Looking at how people handle money, because money and children are probably the two biggest dividers. So, if one of you is a saver and one of you is a spender, how are you going to manage that relationship? And even looking back to the way that we were brought up, if one of you was given everything that they wanted, money was no object, and the other one, money doesn't grow on trees, you have to work for everything that you get, that gives a very, very different money mindset. And sometimes you can work around that, and sometimes it can lead to really bad friction. Same with the kids. If you were brought up by a very authoritarian parent, then you're used to being dictated to. If your parent was much more laissez-faire, you were left to get on with your own thing, and you became very independent very quickly. So it's asking people to look at a whole raft of things. And I think if you get to know somebody really well, inside out, then you're much more likely to be able to problem solve. So the problems are not going to lead to high conflict.
Okay.
So I think fundamentally that's what would make a better marriage. I won't say a good marriage, but a better marriage.
Okay. Ben, have you got anything to say?
Yeah. There's a guy I like listening to, and it's not exclusively because he's heavily tattooed. I like some of the things that he says as well, which is James Sexton. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's known as the divorce lawyer online. Seems like a lovely book, but he describes the concept of a good marriage as your ability to say, "I've found my favorite person," that above all else and all other things that there could be, you're my favorite. And when you were talking, then there was that idea that popped into my head, and like I heard Sandy Toksvig talk about her. I think she said she was married 18 years, something like that, long time to her wife at the minute. And the proverbial secret to the good marriage there was the scuba diving buddy system, in that Sandy's sole role was to look after her wife, and her wife's sole role was to look after her. And if you'll forgive the labored way of asking my question, I don't know how much time you spend online. It seems that everyone has an opinion of the things that makes this certain marriage last. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone that doesn't work in the fields that you do, or James does, or maybe someone else, that has more of an in-depth insight and a variety. I mean, that word probably does you a disservice, but of the variety of conversations that you have throughout the rest of the day. So do the volume of different opinions, thoughts, and ideas that are yelled into the noise of social media have an effect, in your opinion, on someone's ability to connect with one another, so they might struggle to marry their best friend, as you might say?
I think social media has been a big influence in breakdown of marriage, in as much as when I got married first time, there was no such thing as the internet. And what you said and did was private.
Yeah.
Now, what you say and do is splashed everywhere. So there's no such thing as having a secret.
Yeah.
Somebody will take a picture of you if you're misbehaving.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I was thinking, Sue, is any relationship you have, and mine with my wife is the same, is it changes.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're the same people that either of us were when we married to who we are now. And that is going to cause friction, and it has, and it may probably not so much now because you grow into one another, you get comfortable. I think that's a term I use a lot for the state that you want to get in when you're with people for the first time, or maybe forever, is that you want to feel comfortable with them. What do you feel about that?
Marriage, like everything else, is ever changing. I mean, when people first get together, it's purely a chemical reaction. You know, you've got hormones whizzing around, you've got all sorts of chemical reactions in the brain, which blinds you to any faults. And so, you know, they don't call it the honeymoon period for nothing, because, you know, everything, you're looking through rose-colored specs. And then later down the line, especially once children come along, you see a different side. Very often, especially if the mother has given up work to bring the children up, the children are going to become the center of her universe whilst they're young. And dad might feel neglected. And that's one of the, during pregnancy and early years of children, is one of the key times that men will have an affair. And if they can get over that period, then they go into the settling down period when, you know, they're starting to look forward. The next big hiccup is in their sort of mid-40s to mid-50s, when children are grown up, they're leaving home. So you've got the empty nest syndrome, you've got the wife going through perimenopause. And during that time, not only does the hormone level change, but also the brain changes. The brain completely rewires during perimenopause for a woman. And they go from being this nurturing, let's keep the peace, to it's my time to shine. I've spent all these years bringing up kids, and if you expect me to pick up after you and do all the dishes and all the cooking and all the cleaning, you've got another thing coming. It's my time to shine, and you can go and do it for yourself. And that, coincidentally, is when the majority of divorces start. And 2/3 of divorces are instigated by women between 45 and 55.
Wow. I had no idea about that.
No,
But
Yeah.
it makes sense in a lot of ways. And so you say the brain is completely rewired. What do you mean by that? Particularly, you know, in that more sort of, is that science terms? Is it really rewired, or is it just the thinking that's rewired?
If the woman goes through new thought patterns, so, you know, I've given up a career and I know that I've got something left in me to give, then they start carving out new nerve pathways.
Okay.
And that's the time when so many women then either change their careers, if they've kept their career going, or they start their own business, or they retrain and get a new paid career. And so it is very much let's start carving out these new nerve pathways.
Intelligence doesn't guarantee influence. If you can't communicate and do so clearly, your ideas die in translation. Productive communications teaches you how to understand behavior, how to navigate tension, and how to create real clarity in conversation. No manipulation, no scripts, just behavioral insight applied correctly. So if you want fewer misunderstandings and more control in conversation, go to omniscient-insights.com/procoms or right here.
Okay. Ben?
Yeah. So obviously the century that we live in, there's different kinds of things going all left and right. It's not just about a woman stays home while guy goes off to work. There might be a stay-at-home mum. Both people might work from home. Both people might have to go to work. All of the many differences that go on in the various different households as well. But do you find that those same patterns keep arising, like the things that you mentioned with the menopause, or the divorce rates around the women in their late 40s, early 50s, and these kind of things keep happening, or is there like a set pattern to that, like it's only normally in, where the guy has the expectations of what the woman should do, these types of things, or is it right the way across the board?
I think things have changed because the time when women could afford to take long maternity leaves has gone.
Yeah.
You know, more and more families now, both parents are having to work and they have to put the child into nurseries and childcare, etc. But nevertheless, in a lot of families, the childcare falls to the woman rather than the man. That's not all of them. I know several families where the man is the main child carer. But traditional families, you know, like my generation or my parents' generation, where it was expected that the woman gave up work to look after the children, has gone now. It's an active choice. However, that can come back to bite them in the bum, because if they do go through divorce, then it might get thrown back. Well, you chose to give up work, even though it was a joint decision, and I've worked hard to get this pension. You know, why should I give you half of my pension?
Absolutely. Gotcha.
So from what you're saying, thinking about it, would you say that marriage is less about compatibility and more about adaptability?
Definitely adaptability. You've got to be compatible to get on. Yeah. You know, if you're not compatible, then you're not going to get past the first hurdle. You know, every marriage has its ups and downs. Every marriage has conflicts. It's how you deal with those conflicts and how you let the conflicts fester or die down. Okay. You know, some people will remember each little detail of each little conversation that's gone negatively and keep bringing it up. Others will just put it all in a box, put the lid down and let it be.
Yeah. You've mentioned behavioural patterns, which is something that, you know, when you work in the field that Ben and I work in and that you've worked in before, behavioural patterns is how you assess the state of anything, any communication that you're having. Yeah. If you're reading behaviour, you're looking for the patterns that you can adapt to. And I think from what I'm hearing is that those behavioural patterns are what shape the relationship and how you respond to them. And so if you're in a conversation with someone, you can be in a conversation but having the wrong conversation with that person because you're not communicating in the style that they want.
Yeah.
And is that, you know, in my view, is that breaks a communication down, but I assume that over time that would break a marriage down as well when you're having different types of conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've got to be on the same wavelength to be able to have a conversation anyway. But as you know, we've all got different backgrounds, we've all got different experiences.
Mm.
We've all got different communication styles.
Yeah.
The words that we use will reflect our communication styles. But everything is tempered by assumptions and experience. And if somebody says something that triggers a negative memory, that is going to colour the way that we understand what is being said.
Mm.
It may be intended very differently, but there's a huge gap between the person that delivers the message and the message that they're intending to deliver, and the message that's received and the meaning that they perceive it. And all that noise in the middle can make or break not just a conversation, but a relationship.
Yeah. I get that, because if there is a communications failure between that, then one or both parties just give up, and that's when you get these marriages and people where they've got nothing to talk about because they've just disconnected. That's in my impression. That's what I've seen.
Yeah.
I think certainly in my own instance, and probably your own, it's why we keep working, because it gives me something to do. It's not because I have to work. It's because I want to keep going, to give me an interest.
Yeah.
It's something to talk about. And my wife's the same. She still works, although she doesn't have to, part-time, because it gives her interest. And I think if you have a good marriage, then you can be as part as well as be together.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're happier, although it sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes being apart makes you better when you're together.
Yeah, absolutely. When Bill and my marriage is a typical example of that. We lived 200 miles, well, 180 miles apart, and saw each other for weekends for many years. And then when he eventually sold his house, moved up to Liverpool, he had money burning it in the bank, and his head had been all over the place, but his heart's always been in Sunderland. And so we've now got a cottage up in Sunderland that we're doing up. So again, I go back to Liverpool when I need to, when I've got a hair appointment or a nail appointment, and spend most time up in Sunderland.
Oh, wow.
But I'll still keep the place in Liverpool because I value my own independence.
Okay.
And I think that keeps us strong.
Yeah. Ben?
Love that. Yeah. I just the actress again, Mr. Pop Culture reference, Miriam Margolyes popped into my head, and she speaks of her partner. They've been together for something like 50, 60 years, but they only started living together quite recently. And so there's some of those things that they're just connected there. And with in reference to what Bob was talking about with pattern recognition, do you find then that in your experience, regardless of what people say in terms of, make sure you have fun together, make sure you never go to bed angry, these types of things, that there is a kind of usual suspect list of whether it be personality quirks or situational specifics that are occurring that will either contribute to the marriage struggles, and therefore solving them might lead to more success, or the usual suspects in terms of the marriage success that when they aren't there might lead to struggles?
John Gottman, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's the relationship guru, and he always says that you need 5 positive strokes for every negative stroke. So every time you say something negative or do something negative, you need to counterbalance that with at least 5 positive things to say, things to do. And you build, in doing that, you build up a bank account of goodwill. So if you keep putting into the positive bank account of goodwill, then occasionally when you have a blow up, you can afford to take a little bit of negative balance out.
I like that. The give and take of all relationships. That's one of the things that again, me and my wife, we've not been married long, but we've been together nearly 10 years, and we've not had a cross word. And that's not as a kind of celebratory thing. I'm sure there are many couples that are in the same that same boat, but it's that kind of situation that happens. Do we know each other? Of course. Is there angry situations that pop up? Of course, but that kind of give and take conversationally, in that no one's really expecting to. Maybe this is something that you can speak to. Nobody expects to win an argument. Like there's no ego in this situation. Yeah. The discussion is solved because both parties have been seen, heard, and understood. So there's no one searching for winning. So is there something to be said for the value of I don't know what the right word is. I need controlling your ego, mitigating its influence, something along those lines.
I think it's a matter of recognizing where your ego is.
Mm.
And okay, in some situations one person will win, and other situations the other one will win, but it shouldn't be a competition, it should be collaboration.
That's it.
Mm.
That's it.
It should be a true partnership.
Yeah. Stu, I was wondering, do you think there is such a thing as a healthy way to have arguments within a relationship? Can you do it in a productive way?
Yeah. I mean, there's very few relationships that don't have any arguments at all. It's how you go about it and look for a solution. So if you find that you've got a disagreement, how can we get to a solution where neither of us is giving away too much, but neither of us is winning either? How can we compromise? Because we can't get everything right. It's not a matter of I'm not always right, but I'm never wrong.
Yeah.
It's okay. I admit I've done or said this thing wrong, and I apologize. How can we make sure that this doesn't arise again? So it's looking for solutions that are mutually beneficial.
Mm. So with the thing you're doing now, the divorce coaching academy, you obviously have a lot of contact with people. From your experience doing that, I know it's quite general and it probably may be too general, but I'll ask anyway. Are there behavioural habits that could be said as precursors to going down towards divorce versus ones that indicate that a marriage would survive?
Yeah, and it's all about the way that you it just how you communicate with each other and how you connect with each other. So if you treat each other with respect and you acknowledge someone's attempt at connection you're going to survive much easier than if you treat the other person with distaste or contempt or stonewalling, and you turn away from attempts to connect, to reach out and connect.
Oh, that's interesting. And in that regard, is that what you do? Is this what people come to you with? I don't quite understand what a divorce coach is.
Right. When I'm talking about divorce, I run two separate aspects. The first one is when people have made that decision that they're definitely getting divorced, then I can support them through the emotional journey, giving them practical guidance and support. I can help them to formulate conversations with the children, with the soon-to-be ex, etc. Help them to concentrate on the business of divorce with their lawyers or their financial advisors, rather than the story of divorce, because a lawyer will charge exactly the same for an hour's worth of handing out a box of tissues as he will from giving legal advice. So we help people to ask the right questions and hear the right answers. The other part that I do is I work with couples where there's ambivalence, where they know that there's something wrong with the marriage, but they don't know what route to take. Can we save it? Can we change it? Or do we need to get divorced? And I call that make up, break up, or shake up.
Okay.
So in all relationships that are breaking down, you've got one person that's leaning out of the relationship and leaning towards ending it, when the other one is leaning into the relationship and really wants to save it. And I'll work with them to develop a personal agenda for change, because they can only change themselves. They can't change other people. So what can they change about themselves that's going to benefit the relationship? Excuse me.
Yeah, the pressures of delving out gold.
I think I swallowed a little fly. We've had little tiny fruit flies flying around. We've got rid of most of them. I think I've just found the odd one that was left. Where was I? Oh yes, discernment. So it's getting them to a point where they are confident and clear that they're making the right decision for themselves, for each other, for the family. And as I say, whether to make up, break up, or shake up. If they decide to break up, then I'll work with them as a couple to help them to have a dignified divorce. So working either with a mediator or working with a collaborative lawyer, where they have a lawyer each, or there's a new one called Resolution Together, where it's one couple and one lawyer.
Okay.
So those are the three friendliest, if you like, in inverted commas, way to separate, so that it's keeping it away from court. And that's what we're aiming to do, is to get non-court dispute resolution.
So what is the, in general terms, what is the success rate of turning back towards marriage when, for people that you come in contact with? Are they too far along that that's where it's going to end up, or do you have success rate of people giving it another go?
I would say probably 50-50.
Oh, really? Okay.
Very few people choose just to carry on the same route.
Mm.
We're not making any change, because that's just burying the problems, and they'll come back. So about half my couple clients decide to go down the divorce route, but they divorce in a really dignified way, which is great for the kids, or they will work on the relationship for a minimum of 6 months with divorce completely off the table, and look at what's gone wrong with their relationship, how can we avoid those things again, what do we need to change about ourselves, can we learn to communicate differently, can we learn to handle conflict differently, can we learn to rebuild our connections. If they've had money problems, can we learn to handle the money side differently? How are we going to bring up the kids in a better way? Because if you've got children, no matter what, they've got to be at the center of every decision that you make.
Sure.
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Ben?
Yeah. Now, as it comes to the end of our time here, we've developed a kind of unspoken tradition of sorts to press the people that join us for these discussions for their kind of final thoughts, their Jerry Springer's parting sentiments, if you will, on the topics that it is that we've been chatting about and looking at from the position of behavioural insight. Is there any kind of words of wisdom that you might part from your experience doing what you do, that people can be at the very least a little bit more cognizant of, put my teeth in, to make sure that they're moving towards more productive relationships en masse?
I think it's not a matter of marrying the best person, it's being the best person in your marriage.
Wow.
Yes, I like that. I like that a lot. Bob, how about you?
Just one thing before I talk. Sue, if people want to speak to you, how will they reach you?
My email address is Dr. Sue, that's Dr. Sue, at divorce-doctor, the full word doctor.com.
Okay, we will put that on the
Absolutely.
feed for
It'll be in the description when it
for
goes
the
out properly.
presentation. Anyway. So my final word is sort of solidified by talking to you, Sue, is that I still feel that behaviour is the language of relationships. It's not the words you say, it's the behaviour that people exhibit between them. And that is what makes the world go round.
Yeah. The non-verbals are as important, if not more important, than the verbals.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Love it.
Ben?
So with that in mind, folks, we shall love you and leave you. But to try and continue our burgeoning, long-lasting relationship with one another, you can always continue clicking on the subscription button so you can be alerted when each new episode is made new, and we can continue our marriage of information long into the future. Thank you very much, Sue, for the words of wisdom, and to everyone else, we'll see you all